So it's been nice and warm and raining on and off. And this is perfect weather for propagating from cuttings, softwood cuttings. It's basically like a natural misting chamber or, misting system. Periodic rainfall, keeping everything moist, keeping the humidity up, and then not a lot of direct sunlight, to prevent the cuttings from drying out. So, this is a really great opportunity to take advantage of, and start taking cuttings. So what you do is you take some of these, vigorous new growth. In this case, these are haskaps, but you basically can do this with anything. This is josta berry. You take a little snippet off, and you want to aim for around 4 to 6 inches, something like that, and trim off all the bottom leaves, and then just stick them in the ground, preferably in some nice, rich, fluffy soil. Here I've got a lot of compost and then a layer of wood chips, and I'm weeding it very often, just kind of picking out any bits of grass that I see that are poking through the compost and mulch. But I'm not too worried about that. So you can see here I've got a number of different cuttings, lots of different haskaps and hazelnut, a whole bunch of different things over here, and a lot of them are clearly doing great, and they've rooted and they're even growing. So definitely take advantage of these periods. They can last, like in this case, the forecast is showing probably the next 5 or 6 days are going to be like this, just kind of cloudy, on and off rain, not a lot of direct sunlight, but also pretty warm. So just perfect conditions, for propagating cuttings and for plants to form roots. It's also really great weather for all the different plants that are already established here in the forest garden. So, this is just going to be a period of rapid growth. Everything is all set and ready to go. Lots of manure, wood chips, different kinds of mulch, and we've already been doing some sort of chop and drop pruning and just putting more woody and herbaceous material directly on the ground. You can see here there was quite a lot of grass growing. We directed that around this comfrey and a little bit of chives. That grass is just going to grow right back, but it's going to give this a boost, and that plant will slowly get bigger and start to compete with the grass, and you'll end up with more diversity. So you can see here, we're trying to keep the areas around our crops clear. This is a bush cherry, and it's nice and tucked in here in this tall grass and all this herbaceous perennial material in here. So, but you don't want it to get too engulfed in the grass, right? So this whole hugelkultur has plenty of these cuttings that I've stuck in, over the past years and also recently. Those cuttings are rooting, and I just got to make sure that they don't get totally engulfed by a lot of this rampant growth, a lot of mint, raspberries and sunchokes, yarrow, bee balm, and milkweed, tons of different things, and those are all great plants to have, but they're occurring in such numbers and abundance that they can easily be sacrificed to direct that energy towards other plants. And you can do this, in a lot of different configurations and scales, right? This is kind of a large scale hugel, 7 years old. There are 2 to 3 foot diameter logs deep down in there that are turning into a giant sponge, and then there's layers and layers of different manures and mulches and soil developing on top. So it's this giant rich sponge, and you can basically stick in huge branches into this thing and propagate like a whole branch. So you don't have to just do 4 to 6 inch little cuttings, you know. You could stick in something big, and you know, it depends on the species. Certain species will do that more readily than others, and certain species won't do that at all. But like elderberry, for example, you can just break off a huge stalk of elderberry and stick it deep into the hugel and it'll sprout, which is what's happening here. Elderberry, there's some more over here, and then there's tons of horseradish growing in here. So anyway, I just wanted to give a sort of description of the way that I've been propagating cuttings. You know, no plastic trays, no soil from, you know, the store wrapped in plastic or anything like that. Like, this is all coming from here, and it works really well. It's really easy. Like, you know, once you set up the bed, then just stick it in a branch of a currant or, you know, a raspberry or something, and you know, maybe half of them die. But if half of them survive, you know, and it only took you 5 minutes, then that's pretty good. So that's how I've been multiplying all of our different plants here, and it's going really well. So just wanted to describe that method of propagation and kind of show you around the garden. Everything's looking really good, but I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave a comment, or any suggestions, critiques, anything you got. All right, I gotta find some shelter. Try not to get hit by lightning.